Okay, everybody, welcome back to the Lech Dechmasa podcast. We continue with Pele Yoeitz. We're on page 78 in the art scroll, day 25 of Hachzik. Today we begin a new Ois, the Ois Zayin Zavada, which means provisions. And while a man's main objective in this world is to prepare himself and make sure that he's doing okay in this world, but of course we all know that the main focus, the Iker Tachlis, is for the next world, the world of Kulei Shabbos, the world of Kulei Emes. I'm going to talk about that a little bit. So Pele Yoeitz begins, Yedua over the Maisi B'Shas. The Gemara Ksubas tells us the Mar Ukva B'Shas Petirosei. Mar Ukva at the time that he died. Ra'ach Cheshben Tzidkoisa V'Asher Asa Sha'Allah L'Sach Shivas Alafim Dinner Zav. He had his accounts brought to him and he saw that the total of his tzedakahs added up to the sum of 7,000 golden coins. What happened? V'Omar, he wasn't satisfied. And even though there was a tremendous amount of generosity that he gave over time, what was his response? Orchin Rechika. Uzevadin Kalila Upalginu Lepalga Denechse Tzedakah. He said, my provisions are meager, and the way is long, and went ahead and distributed half of his possessions to tzedakah. So Mar Ukva, even though the halacha was that you're not supposed to give more than a chaimish, but Mar Ukva realized, the Gemara in Ksubas tells us that Mar Ukva realized that right before he died, he looked at his charitable accounts, he looked at his OJC and his donor fund and his tzedakah account, and he saw that he gave a ton of money. He was a wealthy man. And he gave 7,000 dinarim, which is a tremendous amount. But nevertheless, he knew as he was departing into the next world, he knew as his time in this world was closing out, coming to an end, he wanted to make sure that he can absolutely maximize as much as possible, and he gave half of his possessions. Why not more? Because he probably had children and other things, but he wanted to increase and make sure as he's going to the next world, the Olam HaEmes, he didn't want it to be any tainus, and he wanted to do the most he possibly can. Where Hashem is going to say, Mar Ukva, I give you all this money, and Mar Ukva is going to be able to respond to Hashem, I gave half of it. Way more than a chumash to tzedakah. A person can see with his own eyes that when he sets out on a trip, says the Pele Yoeitz, a big yisod for life. Just like a person when he goes out on a trip and he cheshbons and he details everything, he looks at Google Maps and he looks at Waze and he sees the distance and he cheshbons the gas and the gas stations on a long trip and when he's going to have to stop over here and that motel and this city and that's. Says the Pele Yoeitz, it's no different the way we live our lives. The same thing is with our spiritual, our own journeys in life. That we have to be maktim kamyom lahachin tzedel l'darkay. Tzeva chashayiv lefi ma sheyamad ba'ilam shekula aruch shalom mispar. Go calculate. Since in the next world, that trip that we talk of, there's no end. That trip that we're speaking of, there's no beginning. There's a beginning, but there's no end. It's netzach netzachim. Even if a person will live on this world for 1,000 years, and therefore says the Pele Yoeitz that even if a person would have millions and millions of golden dinners, it would never be enough for him to amass all of the fuel, everything he needs for the journey in the next world. Therefore, says the Pele Yoeitz, that just like a person who makes a cheshbon in this world, he's going on a trip, he's going on a 2,000-mile trip, he's going across America. He's the cheshbon everything, and the food and the gas and how the kid's going to be and how's this one and the car and a rental and leasing and all these things. Is our life, is our term in this world any different, that we shouldn't be thinking the same way for the next world? Should we not be thinking about Netzach Netzachim, about our eternity, where there can never possibly be enough for that time? And if we're preparing and investing in, let's say, a short trip across America, certainly we would be equally, definitely more, but at least the same for our trip in the next world, which is for eternity, and no amount can possibly sustain it because it's eternity. But definitely while we're here, we should at least maximize what we possibly can to make sure that we have the most enriched and best possibility of our eternity possible. V'im taimar, kevin she'en adam yachol etzesi dei chavas l'shlech la'olam haba dei machzor v'chitayim manoichal. So now the Pele says, okay, so a person can obviously start wondering and saying, well, if I can never fulfill my quota, can never fill my sack for the next world, then where should I even begin? Obviously, the pshat is Hashem gives matnas chinam. He gives a kindness and sustains us with an undeserved gift. Yeah, we can't sustain eternity and the amount of chusin that we need. One bracha, one apple, we're not deserving of for our entire life. We have one apple, just one apple. We learned about this in the past. We say one bracha of pekechim in our eyes. Do we deserve our eyes? Can we do enough chusim in this world? Our entire stay over here to deserve our eyes? To be able to lift a pen? To be able to open a book? Never. So how is it possible that we can cover ourselves for all the ches we get in this world and sustain for the next world? It's a great kasha. As the effect of Yoeitz. What is the answer? That obviously there's an element of matnas chinam, that Hashem gives us an undeserved gift. And we should never forget that we're going to be invited to eat by the king's table. The answer is that when a person puts forth his best efforts and does whatever he's able to, we don't start getting involved in the cheshbainas. This equals that, A plus B equals C, and this plus this equals that, so we're not going to make it. We might as well give up. No. Hashem is the Melech. There's no teva, there's no time, there's no space, there's no hayah, it's all one. And when we do our best, and we try to maximize our time, and we try to perform as many mitzvahs as we can, and learn as much Torah as we can, and do everything right, and always and always thinking about the Eibishter, then Hashem can have many tainas. And if we're working, or we're running, or we're exercising, or things that seem to be mundane, but if we're having in mind that we're doing it for the king, that's all part of the avodah, says the Chafetz Chaim. And if that's the case, we're going to get schar on all of that. We'll be able to say we learned all day, do mitzvahs all day. Why? Because even when we're sleeping, even when we're eating, and we're exercising, and taking care of our bodies, and taking care of our families and our kids, and relaxing, but if it's all done for an elevated purpose, for the purpose of having an enhanced, enriched strength, koich to serve the king, bing, 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 yeah. It's all points. All points for our olam haba, for our eternity. And that's what Pele is telling us. Then we'll merit, as long as we do our best, as much as we can. Yes, there's ups and downs, but we try our best overall. Hashem gives us. Then we will merit to be sustained in plenty for the entire duration of our eternity. You can't fathom that, but that's the emes. Oy lo inoysen lo osar lefazer yosef b'dinu shehitol schar ben shalom kol me olam.